Hello, I'm Diane. Welcome to my channel, Diane in Stitches. This channel's all about my makes, patterns, fabrics, all things sewing related. So if you enjoy sewing, I hope you'll enjoy the content here. What I'm wearing today, I'll start off in the traditional way. This is an older make. It's the Halla Patterns Slim Dolman. I've had this pattern for a while. I'm pretty sure it was a free pattern. And I don't know if it's, I'm meant to have a look, see if it's still available. But it's just to pull out a dolman sleeve, grown on sleeve type thing. You can have long sleeve or short sleeves. You can add bands. There is actually a lower neck as well. And it's one pattern piece for back and front. You just take off a scoop for the front. And then there's just an additional sleeve piece if you want a long sleeve, and I've just hemmed the bottom, but I didn't put the band on the bottom. This is a leftover fabric. It's a cotton lycra. I originally made some pajamas. It's from Pound Fabrics. I think I ordered 3 meters. It was £2.50 a meter, I believe. I don't think they have it anymore. And I made a pajama top. Put a picture up. I've just used a contrast for the bottoms, which is I think it's a McCall's pattern for the pajama bottoms. And then I make the Copper Creek Anything But Basic Tee, which used to be the Do It Better Yourself Club. So I just did the plain t-shirt and pajama bottoms, but this was the leftover fabric, and I just put a ribbing on the neck and the cuffs. Now, this was a thing where my brother overlocker started to go a bit haywire. There are a lot of skip stitches. I didn't know whether it was this, because this is quite a sturdy ribbing, and I didn't know whether they just didn't cope with it. There's some real I can't know if I see it on there, but there's some real gnarly bits inside. And from then on, it just started skipping stitches. Whether this threw the timing out, when I sent it to that man who more or less knackered it, he said the timing was way out. So, but it's sort of going over. It's quite a thick where you go over the shoulder seams, but it's a complete mess inside. It's just skip stitches, and I didn't know. As I say, I didn't know whether it was this ribbing. It sewed all right afterwards, but when it went over a bump, it was just skipping all the time. So it's something sent it off. But it's okay as a just a pull-on t-shirt. It's quite. In fact, I've got the thing out now. I thought when I put it on this morning, I thought, oh, I'll probably need another one of those. But I might just do a self. I have got some cotton lycra. I might just use self fabric for the bands. Anyway. So this week has been a bit of a slow burner. I haven't got much sewing done until the last couple of days, and I've been trying to do this polo shirt. But we've been sort of out and about. We've had well, it was Keith's birthday on Tuesday to start with, and we met up with his sister and her husband. They live over other side of Lancashire, sort of near Southport. And we met up in Manchester and went for lunch with them. So that was a nice day, but we got lost. It's we sort of know Manchester because we used to live near Burnley, Rosendale Valley. And we used to go to Manchester quite often, but we didn't know where this restaurant was. They said they'd booked it. And so we did a little bit of a circuit, trying to follow a map. Keith was insisting we needed to go that way. I ended up getting my phone out. I've got a little sat-nav app on it, and we eventually found out. We were about half an hour late because the train was late anyway. We'd gone on the train, and so we were dashing around. My feet were killing me. So we had a bit of a busy day. My legs were. Well, when we got home, my legs were just killing me. I woke up in the night with cramp and just not fit at all. But anyway. So as I say, we went on the train because a couple of weeks ago we decided to buy senior rail passes. So we decided to make use of that instead of driving everywhere and getting caught in traffic and God knows. But as I said, the train was late from, we got the train here, we can get the train just down the road, station's just 5 minutes walk, but the train into Sheffield, then we had to change in Sheffield, and the train there was late, and then it came over on the sort of loudspeaker from the train driver or wherever, that if you were 15 minutes late you could claim your fare back. So we did that, so we got the Sheffield to Manchester fare refunded because it was actually about half an hour late. So that was that day, and then we've had like appointments, and I just haven't had impetus to get into things, and I've been helping Keith. Keith went and decided, I've given him a bit of money for his birthday towards a laptop. He bought himself a new laptop, so I've been helping him set all that up because I'm a little bit of an IT. I know a bit about IT. I won't say I'm an expert, but I get called quite frequently about computer problems. So he was trying to set that. So we've been doing that, and then I just been tired, and it's just been a really, 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 really slow week. But I did make a start on the Polo, Sombrio Polo. It's nearly there, but I've had a right job, I'll say, with this placket, and I made a big boo-boo sewing the placket on. I don't know whether it's black. I don't know whether this is going to show up, but it's sort of got this. This isn't so. When I'd sewn it on, I think this little V shape. Let me bring this light over. It might be a bit better. This little triangular shape must have moved, and I don't know whether I've caught something. There's a little bit of fraying going on here. This is just basted on. I took the stitching out to try and improve it, because it ended up with a couple of little holes in the corners, and I was thinking, I wish I'd done the other was it the Sinclair polo shirt, and it's sort of, as I say, I need to sew this on the machine. I thought I'll just baste it on, and I tried to make an alteration. It might not be puckered once I've got it properly sewn, but the instructions were fine. There's a fabulous. Got the printed it. Well, I haven't printed it. I'll read the instructions off the computer. But they've also on their website got a sew along, which is excellent. So if you're going to make, I'll link it in the descriptions. But it's very helpful to have the video as well. But but it is only for a pajama top. Now he's tried it on this. Well, I've said tried it on. I've put the sleeves on, but I need to do the side seams, and then I need to get the cover stitch out for the hems. I'm just going to turn up. They're pre-pressed, so they just need turning up, and the bottom cover stitching. But Keith put it over his head this morning, and it is a bit tight going over, not drastically so. But you see there's this twill tape along the seam. Now what I'm going to do is I have done some videos. I did a little bit of like a sort of a sew along, if you like. So I'll put those videos in now. I mean, warts and all. It's got the hash I made of this front placket bottom. So I'll just play those through, and just as a little bit of a help. Well, I say help. It just shows it was difficult, and I wish I'd actually used a stretch or some of the same fabric, a stretch bias tape rather than this twill tape, and then that probably would have gone over his head a bit better. As I say, it's got it on, he just pulled it over his shoulders, obviously, because there's no side seams yet. But I'm not happy with it at all, but we'll see. It'll be a wearable toile, as I've said. But anyway, so I'll play these videos now and then come back in a little while. Okay, so I hope this will work okay. This is, with it being black, this is I thought I would just demonstrate the placket front of this Sombrio Polo that I'm just doing for Keith. And this is a test of this new overhead filming bracket thing that I've decided to invest in. The gimbal was okay, but it's a bit restricted in it's sort of where it's angled. This one is actually an overhead camera holder, and it's looking to be okay at the moment. So I'll just have to make sure that I'm positioned right. Anyway, so this is the front, the placket, and this is, as I said, this is the first time I've done a placket like this. So hopefully it'll be a bit of a demonstration on how good these instructions are. They look pretty good to me so far, and whether I can do it straight off without much bother, she says, hopefully. So you've got these two pieces here. Now I have interfaced these. It did say if it's a lighter weight, only to interface it, you only need to interface it if it's a lighter weight fabric that you're using. But I thought I've just used a very lightweight knit interfacing, so it still stretches a little bit. So anyway, you mark, there's the marks here that go down these placket pieces, and then there's the front rectangle, which I have it's machine basted on the sewing machine. So that the lines are a little bit iffy, but they do sort of, hopefully they'll work. So what you do first of all is turn that right side up, and then with the right sides of the placket pieces, the edges go towards the centre, meeting the centre front, and these lines will match up with the lines that are basted on the front, which you can't see because it's black. So they go on there. Just put those up together, and then what I need, I'll pin those, and then I sew following these lines. It just extends 1/2 inch below the line, and that should match up with the lines on the body. So we'll just see if that works. Well, I'll just sew around and back up. So here we are now with the next stage that I've done. So what I did, I've just sewed down this seam here to the bottom, and then the instructions are to press these long edges in 1/2 inch, and then you cut down the centre line to 1/2 inch away from where the bottom is, and then just cut into the corners, but not through the stitching. So that's the first stage of the placket done, and we'll come back to that later once the collar is on. So the next stage is this back neck facing, which goes on the back neck. Now this is confusing me a little bit. So it said to do a basting stitch 5/8 of an inch from the edge, and then cut the notches up to the basting stitch, and then press it up. Now it does seem to me this to be quite a large seam allowance, because it's not looking great. I may abandon this stage. I've never done this before either. I've never added a back neck facing, so this is a first as well. But anyway, what we do with that now is, this is now the back and this is the inside. So we go wrong sides facing, and that will go in the back neck there. And then we do an edge stitch all the way around and attach it to the body of the back of the shirt. So I'll go and do that, and then we'll move on to the next stage. So I've got a little bit further ahead. So I've got this back neck facing on. Not entirely happy with it on the inside. It does look a little bit iffy, but that's obviously the effect from the outside, is just a semicircle of, it's like a reinforcement on the back neck. I've got the front and back shoulders sewn together, put some seam tape interfacing to stabilise the shoulder, and I've done that on the overlocker. So that's front and back joined at the shoulder seam. And then I have just managed to get the collar done. Now this isn't a two-piece collar. I'll just show you the pattern piece. It's a long, pointed at both ends. Come here. Pointed at both ends, and then sort of like a curved edges, and then that's folded in half, right sides together, and then I've just turned it over, turned it round, and then I shall be, optional is, I will do it, I'll go and put some top stitching around the edge just to hold that in place. I've done this on the sewing machine because I think when you've got a collar or something that's got a seam like that, an overlocker is a little bit bulky and thick. Same when I do a neckband now, I don't do it on the overlocker, the back neck seam, or joining the neckband along the back into a circle. I use the sewing machine now because it does make it less bulky. So I'll go and top stitch that, and then we're getting on with the next stage. So I've got the collar attached now to the body, going from the front placket right round the back to the next opposite front placket. And what you have to do is extend the collar edge half an inch beyond this front seam. You can probably see it better there. And then turn the placket back over the collar, so you're sandwiching the collar between the placket edges, and then that will turn through like so. Get that out of the way. And the placket will be just ahead of the collar once that's sewn on. So what I'm going to do, I think, I'm a bit wary about doing this thickness through the overlocker. So I'm going to just do that on the sewing machine. This bit's going to be bound anyway. I've got this some twill tape. It's similar to the back neck bands that I've been doing on my t-shirts, and that just goes on there, turns down, and then top stitches. So the binding twill tape is going to be hiding this seam, so I don't think it needs to be overlocked anyway, so it's going to be hidden away in the seam behind the twill tape. So I'm just going to do that on the sewing machine, and then we'll see what this front corner's like. So I've basted it on, because I don't want it's just easier to manage without pins or clips. I usually do that if I'm overlocking anyway, but just to save messing about and getting all tangled up, it just keeps it all nice and in place, ready for, and just lets you sew without faffing with pins or clips. So I'll get that done on the sewing machine, and then that'll be the next phase. Now we can probably finish off the placket. So that's the collar sewn on and then closed inside the placket. So when we turn that right way round, get a proper tool to push that through, the collar should be sort of in the middle of the placket. Let's just position that a bit better. Bit difficult to see with the black, I imagine, but so that's not looking too bad. And when that goes over, hopefully it'll look okay. Once I've got it pressed, and then I'll just remove some of this bulk on the inside here before turning it. But then before I do that, then it's the putting the twill tape around this seam. So so that's the next step. But they're looking all right-ish so far, I think. So before I can go any further, I've realised a bit of an error. When it tells you to press in the two sides of the placket pieces, it doesn't mention anything about this front bit that you've done where you sew that rectangle and then snip into the corners, and I just assumed that stayed that way. But looking at some of the pictures, I was supposed to have, because I've sewn it like pressed open there at the top into this placket that turns over. So whereas that should be pressed that way, because obviously if I come round like this now, that's going to be sticking out from behind the inside of the placket. So I should have done that inwards. I'm not undoing the neck. I could undo that and flip that back that way. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snip close to those stitching lines and then just fold that in, because I did notice on one of the other pictures where you can see that that diagonal bit there with this all facing inwards. So I'm just going to snip it. It's all going to be enclosed in the seam anyway. But the next bit is it's quite a wide. Well, it's a 5/8 of an inch seam, and I'm going to trim it down. But what they've said in the original instructions is for the twill tape to be wide. It's quite wide. It's I think it's nearly 2 centimeters. And I thought, well, I'd ignore the colour. I'd got this in my stash, and because this is only going to be for a night wear pyjama top, Keith said he wasn't bothered about the twill tape. But looking at the pictures on the diagram, on the instructions, it doesn't look anywhere near that wide, and neither does the seam that it's, because you have to attach it from neck just inside the placket all the way around the neck to the other side, and then when you turn that over, the twill tape's jutting out from behind the placket, so it stays stays like that, and then you sew this bottom edge, which I feel is going to be quite a wide seam. And I didn't realise, and so I went and bought some narrower twill tape. So I've got the just one and a bit centimeters. So I'm going to cut this seam down anyway. But this looks pretty much similar to the width of the bias that I've used when I did my t-shirts. So that will, I'll cut everything down, I think, and then that will attach to the to that stitching line, and then the placket will turn in, and I'll have this other piece out of the way that should be out of the way, and then hopefully I can get that stitched down with a bit of a narrower gap on the outside of the shirt. So I shall be cutting that down, trying to correct this somehow so that faces inwards, and we'll see how it goes. I'm guessing this is just going to be a wearable toile in the end. So at least I know next time where I've gone wrong, what to do, what not to do. I think I may have put this collar a little bit too far over, I don't know, but we'll see once that's all turned round properly and stitched down however it says to stitch the bottom placket. I don't know, I've not got that far yet. I have had a quick look, but so we'll come back to that when I've tried to sort out this neck and the twill tape a little bit better. So I've managed now to get the the twill tape on, so hopefully you can see that, and this little rogue piece of seam that I had facing the wrong way, I've now pressed it there so it ends up underneath the inside of the placket. So as you can see, the twill tape just goes that far in, and then once that's turned out, it just comes out from behind it's joined in by the back of the placket. So that just goes all the way around. I've pressed it down. I trimmed the seam to back about halfway, and then just used what I thought was, if you look at I'll show some pictures of the original instructions. To me, that just looks really like this width of twill tape and not the 2 centimeter one that it said in the instructions. So that just goes in that side again. I've pressed that way, so that's now hidden behind there. It does say you can, and I'm just going to now top stitch the bottom half of the twill tape down. It says you can start from here if you want the stitching showing, but I think so if you've got your collar down, you would have some visible stitching here. Now I'm going to start from the edge of the placket and just stitch the bit that's going to be, so that the stitching line is hidden once the collar's flipped down. So we're getting there. I think the next stage is sorting out the bottom of the placket. So we're getting there, slowly but surely. So that's now got the twill tape sewn down. So that's the stitching you can see on the underside, under the collar, on the outside of the the body. So the next stage is getting the placket in place. So what I've done, I've just pinned it there just to keep everything together a little bit. So this little triangle cut out from that initial rectangle that you cut out, it says iron, press it down. So I've done that, but I thought I'll just put a pin in just to keep it in place. And then these loose ends, you fold them in and tuck, so the man's goes left over right. So we tuck back down the front under the where the triangle is, and then you bring this other loose end under and tuck that down the front. It'll all get straightened up hopefully. I think I've got some stitching coming undone somewhere, hopefully I can get it sorted. So that's basically the front plackets tucked down the front, the little triangle bits underneath there, and then I believe we then flip this up and get hold of all those bits. I think I need to unpin that, and then they just get sewn. They'll all just get sewn together along the bottom. So have a look at the instructions on that again and try and sort that out. Okay, so I've gone a bit ahead of myself. So if you can see, there's the two placket pieces there, and then the little V from the middle of the placket rectangle. So they've all been sewn together. Now I've slipped a bit here, and I'm a little bit annoyed because I've got some holes now. I think the V slipped and I didn't get it sewn high enough. But I've gone on with some other bits, so I don't know if I can rectify that. But I've top stitched down the edges of the placket pieces, which has caught the insides, turned back edges, and then I've done this very uneven little top stitch down at the bottom, so you can see the little corners here aren't great. So I don't know whether to just persevere. I don't know if I can undo that and just pull that front up a little bit, because it must have slipped back as I was sewing it, and it all looks a bit strange on the front. As I say, it's a wearable toile, shall we say, but not the best work, I would say. Not helped by being black. There's lots of bulk. I mean, this is just so thick here under these collar bits. I could hardly get the presser foot. I had to use my hump jumper, get the presser foot to do these bits. The hump jumper to get the presser foot in order to do these top stitching, and it's just a bit of a nightmare, really. But anyway, it is what it is. Warts and all. So I think I'll just persevere. I'm supposed to overlock this edge here, but I'm going to leave it for now. It's not fraying anyway, and I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, about 8 layers there. So I don't want to ruin my new overlocker. I'm sure it'll be all right, but for now I'm just going to leave it, and we'll see how it all finishes off. So it's just now the rest of the thing. I think it's sleeves next, and then I've got 3 little buttons to go on there. So there we go. Don't know how much further this is. Well, see what happens anyway. I'll finish it off probably, and then see if it fits, and what I'm going to do about this, if anything. So, see what you thought of that. It's certainly I've never done a placket before, so it was all a bit new, and black. I just really don't like sewing black, but it was a cheap fabric to try it, so we'll see. So what else has happened? There's nothing else really happened. I've tried to go through, I was going to have a pattern cull, and I went through and I did get rid of a few of the big 4 patterns to go to the charity shop. Gone through the PDF patterns, and I think I've out of nearly 100, I think I found 4 that I would likely get rid of. So I've just left them there basically. I'm looking at other patterns at the moment. Itch to Stitch have brought out a nice new dress pattern, the Sorata. Let me just check on that one. Sorata. And Lifting Pins and Needles, Karina has done a video on that as well. It looks a nice dress. It's sleeveless, but you can have a ruffle, which I probably wouldn't do, or a flutter sleeve. Because what I'm looking for now, I'm trying to get a season ahead. Instead of now, I'm thinking, well, it's feeling a bit autumnal, or it might not be after this week. It's going to be hot this week, but looking forward to autumn, thinking I ought to really start planning those makes. I've got 1 or 2 sweatshirty type or thicker fabrics to make wintry or long sleeved for later on in the season. But I also need to think now in November we go to a do with Keith's university colleagues, and it's a big all partners and everybody, and we go and stay overnight at a hotel and have a big meal on the evening, and then obviously breakfast next morning, and then we all go our separate ways. And I've usually made things for that do. I think first and second year, because this was all after we came back from Cyprus, from living in Cyprus, and then there was COVID. I think the first one we went to was 2022. I made a dress, and then the following year I made a dress, and then last year I made what I was hoping to be a cord set, and I didn't like it together, so I just wore the top with the trousers that I made, the upland Itch to Stitch upland trousers, and it was the Pattern Emporium Be Mine balloon sleeve blouse that I made at the top, and that was nice. I thought I'd go back to a dress again, don't know why. It's the only place I wear dresses. So I'm looking for a dress pattern. I don't know if I've got one suitable. I may have, but I'd quite like this Sorata dress, just with the flutter sleeves probably. And I've also been looking at patterns for like a caftan. Some of you may remember a few videos ago I'd had a fabric haul from Sherwood's Fabrics, and I had this rather unusual print. I'll show you again. For those of you who didn't see that video, I'll just get it out and show you, and remind people who have seen it how ridiculous this fabric is. And I was thinking a caftan type pattern, so it didn't break the pattern up. But this is my tulip, so that's double. I've got 1.5 meters of this rather wild pattern, but it's difficult to find a dress. I just don't know whether it's to break up the pattern match. I don't quite know what to do with it. We're looking at probably, we may go away again next year to a hotel, abroad. It may do for a beach cover up. So if anybody has any pattern suggestions for that, I'd be very grateful. I don't know. It's just a bit wild, but anyway. So I'm just going to think of what I'm going to do over the next few weeks, is just sort of really probably get some ideas for autumn going down into winter garments. So yeah, I went out in the wild in my downtown jacket. That was felt lovely. It felt nice, just nice cover up. It wasn't too hot to wear in roundabout Manchester the other day. What I did find, I reminded myself afterwards, when I mentioned that I'd done length 2 because I wanted the top stitched back, and I said length 3 you can't do the top stitched back, you have to have the pleated back. What I'd forgotten was that they actually do a roomy version. They do a regular fit and a roomy fit, and at the time they released them you could order both as a you know, a combination order. And I just went for the regular fit because I thought, why do you need a roomy? Surely if you wanted it more roomy, you'd just size up. But apparently that's not the case. But the roomy version, you can do length 3 in the top stitched back because it is more roomy, obviously. I don't know. I didn't want it any more loose fitting. It's fine as it is. I don't know how the roomy fit would have fitted, because they all looked, I mean, I got the Ilford jacket, so that's roomy. I think that's a bit too roomy, in fact. But anyway, so you can get the roomy fit and you can do the top stitch back in the length 3, apparently. So that's what I didn't realise. This Sombrio Polo, that is also available in a curve, what they call a curvy fit. So you can get, I suppose, what you would say, it's a women's version. So that's another, but I don't think I'll be buying one for myself. So yeah, so we had to go into town the other day. Keith had an appointment at the doctor's, another thing that set everything back, just to see the pharmacist. So we went into town from there to Boys to get some buttons for this, because I've got loads of buttons, and of course I didn't have 3 black buttons in the right size, so we just had to go to Boys and get some buttons, because we like to avoid going out in unnecessary journeys, so tried to do 2 or 3 things at once. So instead of him just going to the surgery and me staying at home sewing, I went with him to go and get the buttons. Hey ho. So don't think there's anything else to tell you this week. That's, as I say, it's just been very slow. Not much else happened in the world, in my world, in this world, no, anyway. So looks like it's going to be a warm week, so I might be back in shorts in a couple of days. So I think I'll sign off for now and call it a day. So thank you very much for watching. Do give the video a like if you've liked what you've seen. Please subscribe, it does help the channel to get promoted to other people looking for sewing content. And please do leave a comment. I do like to read your comments, and I will reply to them if I catch them. Sorry, I've missed other people's vlogs this week. I'm trying to catch up with people's Friday sews and trying to see, but it's just been a little bit mad this week. I've just not been very energetic, to be honest. Anyway, I'll sign off for now. See you all in the next video. So thanks again for watching, and bye for now.